having a ton of fun here with this jam track, go to it by clicking the link just below here. Like and subscribe if you like the jam track for this. Really great. So, how do you break out of the first minor shape? You know, the first blues scale shape that we all learn as the first thing. It is so comfortable. You got all the notes in the first finger in one fret, right? We grow so comfortable with it that it's hard to break out of, because that's how the human mind works, right? We get comfortable with something, and then it seems like a really daunting task to start, going horizontal. There's a quick trick to do it, but I'm going to ask you to do the same thing for a month. If you're willing to really make this video the point in time where you broke out of vertical playing. Because what you do is simply lay out the blues scale on the two middle strings. And that has the advantage of you being able to replicate those shapes that you play up on the two top strings and on the two bottom strings. It's the same, only in a slightly different place, right? So if you play on only the two middle strings for an entire month, breaking out and playing on the two top strings, on the two bottom strings are really a fast and easy process. And then you can go for another key as well. So you must stay in the same key on the two middle strings for at least a month. And it's basically pretty simple to learn these shapes, because they are all made up of the shapes of the first position minor pentatonic. So for instance here, on the two middle strings here, in your first position, in this case we're in the key of A. So you got your first position minor pentatonic or blues scale in the 5th fret. So, and if you only look at the two middle strings, you got the 5th and you got the 7th fret. Right? Pretty simple shape there. If you go down from that, you have two minor thirds. Right? It's from the 2nd to the 5th. If you go above that, you have what is actually below your shape here. You have the minor third and the whole tone that you have in the bottom of your first position minor pentatonic, right, or your blues scale. You just had that from the 7th fret on the G string and the 10th fret, and then 5, 7, and 8, or 7, 8, and 9, sorry, on the G string, right? Right? Okay, so the next one is the 10th and the 12th on the D string, and the 9th and the 12th on the G string. Right? And you can add the blue note in the 13th fret on the D string if you want to. Right? In the 12th and the 14th fret, now you find the next shape. Right? And you can add the blue note in the 13th fret on the D string. And that's it. Then you came full circle, and now you have two minor thirds, and those are the same as down here. So basically, slowly, 5 and 7. 7 and 10, and 7 and 9 with the blue note in between. And up here, 10 and 12 on the D, 9 and 12 on the G, with the blue note in the 13th fret on the D. All right, 12 and 14 is the next shape. And you can add the blue note in the 13th on the D. And then you do a full circle, 14 and 17. Right, which is the same as down here, the 2nd and the 5th. So that's it, right? You learn that, and you start just taking three shapes, perhaps the first one, and then below and above, and then you have fun going back and forth. And you do not play the first position minor pentatonic. And then afterwards, once you're comfortable with that, and please use a jam track to kind of feel your way into these shapes, then you take the next shape there, keep it manageable, keep it at a level where you're not getting overwhelmed by the, oh, okay, now it should be able to go across. No, you shouldn't be able to go, because you can't, right? How do I know you're not supposed to be able to go across the fretboard like that after learning all the shapes? It's because you can't, right? There's nothing wrong with you, so cut the, right? So you stay with three shapes, you add another shape, go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth here, and then the next one, back and forth, up here, go all the way up, and move like this when you practice, instead of having this idea that you should be going all the way up. When you can go all the way up, that's when you've been going back and forth like this, right? Enough. So what you do is you do not play the first position minor pentatonic or blues scale shape for 5 weeks, or 4 weeks, sorry, at least, right, for a month. And ideally, you don't play it. This is the ideal. you do not play the first position minor pentatonic or blues scale shape when you practice before you are more comfortable with going up and down on the middle two strings. That's how to break out for good, right? Because when you're more comfortable playing on the two middle strings, then why would you be stuck in the first position minor pentatonic vertical playing? And the cool thing is that it's so easily replicable on the two top strings. It's the same combination of shapes all the way up. Right? It's the same thing, and all, right? Same shapes. So when you're dealing with the two middle strings, you're really making a difference there, right? And then I'm just going to give you a couple of ideas to how to move horizontally, right? Because that can, of course, be a challenge in the beginning because we're so used to moving in the other direction. So investigate where you can bend notes as well, because in the first minor shape pentatonic, we're so used to knowing exactly what notes can be bent and what is, doesn't matter. So we have to apply that to our horizontal shapes now. So, for instance, if we have this shape here, right, that minor third on the two top strings in the first position, we know that we can bend the top notes. Whenever you find that shape, right, you practice doing the same thing but in the four note shape. And then you can simply go from position to position by changing position, which is just playing four notes up or four notes down. Right? So basically just play four notes up in one position, move, play four notes up, and then, right? You can also play four notes up, slide, and play four notes down, using your first and your third finger, because then you have to slide. Right? So, slowly, four notes up, slide up to the next position and play four notes down. Slide up to the next position and play four notes up. Slide up to the next position and play four notes down, right? So we alternate constantly. Go in the other direction as well. Practice this little sequence by staying with one position back and forth, right? So four notes up, four notes down, slide, and change position. That's really effective as well, and it sounds nice. And that's a nice way to get around as well. But the final one is the hardest, and that is to stay on only one string and really, play an entire solo just staying on that string. So that's really... That's a nice discipline as well, and you of course can alternate between the two. But the whole thing is to convert your vertical playing to horizontal playing by forcing yourself to stick with the two horizontal. And when you do that, you can really expand that very rapidly afterwards. But stay in one key. Do not practice different keys and move these shapes around. It does not make any kind of sense learning-wise, because what are you practicing? Are you practicing playing in different keys, or are you practicing breaking out of the horizontal shape, playing vertical, right? What are you practicing? Well, I'm practicing both. Well, you can expect if you take two things at one time, that it will take you 10 times as long to learn. It's not like, there's a lot to eat. Let's eat a lot. Let's stuff our mouths. It doesn't work like that when it comes to learning. Focus means one thing, right? Focus on one thing, become very good at that. And suddenly, once you master the key of A here, it's so easy to make that happen in any other key because you have that chain linked together. But in the beginning, when you practice in only A, your mind has a chance to easen up the burden of this challenge because it can stick the shapes to the dots on the fretboard. The same 4-note shapes or 5-note shapes will be placed in the same place every single time, so it's easier to navigate horizontally, right? And that's, of course, what you practice when you shift the key. Then you practice having them unattached to these dots. But that's the second step, right? As well as taking the other couple of strings, the 2 top strings and the 2 bottom strings. Going for those is another process, right? Stick with one thing, and I promise you, you will have the most rapid results. Also, the willingness to keep away from playing the first position minor pentatonic. And every time you do, you slap your fingers and then you remind yourself, hey, that's not the project. The project is to stick to the middle 2 strings. Why? Because that's the only way to break a habit. If you're used to doing something every single day, then in order to break that habit, you have to do something else every single day and refrain completely from doing the first thing. Once you have that new habit, you can go back and forth between the 2 habits as you please. Now you're in control. Now you're actually is the master of what you do on this instrument instead of being a slave of having to stay in one place on the neck constantly, right? So say goodbye to the first position minor pentatonic or blues scale shape and hello to doing this for at least 4 weeks, preferably for longer until it's more comfortable than the first minor pentatonic. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you like this video, and go download the free course just below here and leave a comment by all means if you have anything to say at all. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.